Every 10 years, we count how many people are living in America. This is the census. Redistricting follows that. And this will affect just about everybody in the country.
What it does basically is redraw the boundaries over the next decade for who represents you in Congress and who represents you in the state house.
But before redistricting happens, there's
apportionment.
So with the help of state politics reporter Zach Montalero, here's your guide to how apportionment actually works.
Apportionment is the number of seats each state gets in the House, and it's determined based off the whole count of people living in the United States on April 1st.
The House has 435 seats, and each state must get at least one seat. Then apportionment distributes the rest.
Some gain, some lose, most of them stay the same, but that's really only the first step in the process to redraw the House maps.
So what's the big news? The country's population grew from roughly 309 million in 2010 to 331 million in 2020. That's the slowest population growth since the Great Depression, which means the apportionment numbers weren't as big as we anticipated.
We expected Texas, Arizona, and Florida to gain as many as 6 seats collectively. In the end, they only gained 3, 2 in Texas, 1 in Florida, and none in Arizona, which may have been the biggest surprise of the cycle.
Since there are 50 states, there are 50 different processes.
Some states, it's a purely partisan process. The state legislature draws the lines. The governor can veto or not veto the lines. So party control matters in a lot of states. In other states, they have independent commissions that do the lines.
When congressional redistricting is manipulated by leaders for political gain, that's called gerrymandering.
So the key with apportionment numbers is they don't really tell you that much how much partisan control will shift in Congress. New York is a Democratic state. Overwhelmingly, it's losing a seat, but almost paradoxically, that might be better for Democrats because they get to redraw the map lines in that state. That being said, Republicans control the redistricting process in more states with more seats to draw. Democrats, of course, control the process in other states, but they just don't have the same breadth of coverage, basically, that Republicans do.
What this means is that the next election, you may be voting in a different district than you did in 2020.
One of the big questions with this year's census is how accurate was it?
Like everything else in America, the census was thrown off course by the pandemic.
We had to adapt, but that's part of what we planned for. We didn't plan for a pandemic, but we planned for difficulties.
Redistricting will set up the fight for the House for the next decade, starting with the first midterms under President Joe Biden.
Republicans are looking fairly good right now to take back the House.
But just because the maps get redrawn this year doesn't mean that it's final. Litigation over congressional and legislative maps has become commonplace over the past several decades.
This cycle, we've seen a kind of early start to the lawsuits because the Census Bureau data has been so delayed that there's lawsuits even on when that data comes out. It's a certainty that multiple maps, many maps will be challenged in court.